Hi guys, this is gsno.com and I'm here with the unboxing and preview of the Realme GT Master Edition. It's a special device that comes after we handled the Realme GT, which was a bit of a sleeper hit. I still consider it one of the best bang for the buck phones of 2021. And here we have a bit of a work of art. Actually, its design has been created by a famous Japanese designer, but more about that later. Okay, so Realme GT was a phone inspired by a car, and it was all about horsepower and gaming. This one is basically, it's a lighter version and still pretty cool. We have the white version here. There are several other hues. The design is created by Naoto Fukasawa, hope I pronounced it correctly, and it's inspired by travel bags, suitcases basically. We have the soft touch version. It feels a bit and looks a bit like a pearl. It's pretty nice to see. We haven't handled the white phone in a while now, and when we do, it's usually ceramic. This time it's a sort of multiple layer plastic. We have here something like a 6-step ink printing process to get this beautiful hue. I'm going to fire up the phone and then I'm going to take you through, well, basically what's inside the box and what the device can do. Okay, so first of all, inside the box we have here a prototype, a test version. Here we should have the manual and the SIM key and all that. You'll probably get it on your commercial version. We put this aside and we have here a case, a TPU case. TPU stands for thermopolyurethane. It protects the device and has a pretty nice feel to it. Lots of grip. Here you can find the cable going from USB-C to USB-A, which hooks up to this gigantic charger, which has an USB-A connector. It's a 65-watt charger, super dark technology, and it actually surprised me a lot because it managed to beat some records and it charged the phone in less than 30 minutes. And here you can see the SIM key used to access the slots. Only SIMs, no micro SD available in this case. I think we've covered all the bases, all the accessories. Now it's time to focus on the device. Once again, I actually like the Realme GT a lot. For me, and probably for more people, it can easily be considered the phone of the year 2021 if you're budget conscious. Speaking of price, this one is priced at $250 or something like that. Excuse me, $320. That's the current price, so it's $320 in the end for the handset. And there are some promo bundles in some countries, but let's talk about the design first. So from what I know, this should be a plastic material at the back side with 6 steps of ink printing. Then we have what appears to be a glossy plastic frame, and then we have glass at the front with a plastic protection applied from the factory. We should also have a bit of Gorilla Glass action. Not very sure about that, I have to inquire about it, but the phone is definitely easy to handle and wield with a single hand and pretty grippy. It measures 8mm in thickness and weighs just 174 grams, which is light no matter what device you're comparing it to. Now, aside from that, I would say that the buttons are pretty comfy. We have here on the left side the volume buttons and the SIM tray. Here we have the power button, which may be a bit clicky, but it does its job. Bezels are, I would say, mid thickness, not the thickest in the world, but also not the slimmest. That's part of the impression I'm getting here. Now, aside from that, I think it's time to address the screen, and I'm also going to access our website. The screen you're seeing here is not very different from the one from the Realme GT 5G. It's a 6.43-inch Super AMOLED panel with a Full HD Plus resolution, which at the same time offers 120Hz refresh rate, meaning it's quite good for your gaming needs. It has a punch hole at the top left side for the selfie camera, and in the display, I'm using the face unlock right now. We have here a fingerprint scanner of the optical variety, and by the way, what you just saw was a message and image in the always on display setting. Now what we're dealing with here is a quite bright display, as bright as you can imagine it. We've reached 570 lux units, which is quite impressive no matter what your landmark is. So here we're at about 60%, but if you go all the way, you can clearly see that it's a very, very bright panel. Now, aside from the bright screen, let's see what we're getting inside the phone. We go inside and we find the familiar CPU, Qualcomm Snapdragon 778G. It's a 6nm octa-core chip, also present on the freshly launched Galaxy A52s 5G and Motorola Edge 20, plus the Honor 50. In the current case, it's accompanied by 8 gigs of RAM and 256 GB of storage. And once again, there's no micro SD here. And I did pull some tests on it, and I'm talking about performance tests. You can probably see them here. Among the most relevant is Antutu. This is the older Antutu, and this is the, let's see, should have the new one here. This is it, almost 500,000 points for the Realme GT Master. Now with this score here, we surpassed the Motorola Edge 20 with a similar CPU, and we also beat the Galaxy S20, which is no small feat. And here you can see the Geekbench 5 results, pretty impressive multi-core score, which has us beating the Galaxy Note 20 Ultra, which is once again pretty impressive. Not bad scores also achieved in the graphical department. Here once again we're surpassing some, if not tens of flagships from 2020. Okay, so that's about it. Performance is in short, but one thing that shocked me was that throughout my usage of the phone, charging it, playing games, doing benchmarks, it never, not once, it overheated. And that was pretty nice to see. Not once did I perceive a sensation of heat in this area, and that's pretty cool. Speaking of charging and such things, if you go here, let me just show you the battery. It's a 4300 mAh unit which charges 65 watts, and prepare to be shocked, I only needed 28 minutes to get the device from 0 to 100%, and it's one of the fastest charging phones on the market, 28 minutes. And by the way, it's also not doing bad when it comes to the video playback. I achieved 19 hours, and also, let me show you. Okay, so I have here the continuous usage test, PC mark, 13 hours and 22 minutes, which is quite fine. And here we have split in two the video playback time, 13 hours and a half on one day and 5 hours and a half on the other day. Sum them up for 19 hours of continuous video playback. I'm pretty impressed by that. When it comes to acoustics, we have an audio jack here and a singular speaker here, which is quite bass heavy, so the bass is fine. The volume is, I would say, pretty good, and the high notes were also well separated. Pretty nice voice as well. Now on the connectivity front, we're dealing here with a dual SIM phone, which delivers 5G connectivity. It has Wi-Fi 6. It also has NFC for payments, Bluetooth 5.2, GLONASS, GPS, Galileo, BDS, and QZSS for your positioning. USB-C 2.0 port at the bottom. And now I think it's time that we address the cameras. First of all, I'm going to use a white background so you can clearly see the punch hole for the 32 megapixel shooter here. And if you go to the back side, we have a rather typical camera module, although a bit transparent, which is kind of cool. It says Matrix AI camera, it has the LED flash here, and a combo of 64 megapixel main camera with phase detection, autofocus and f1.8 aperture, plus an 8 megapixel ultra wide, and also a 2 megapixel macro camera. It takes 4K videos 30 frames per second. It has an AI mode, it has a night mode, and I'm actually going to show you some of those modes because they're kind of cool. Okay, so first and foremost, you got the AI scene enhancement, which detects your scenes. Then we have the video. You have to pull from here, and you got your 4K, Full HD, and so forth. This is the stabilization, which actually has two settings, Ultra Steady and Ultra Steady Max. So you got two options here. Also AI highlight video available also for video, not just for photos. There's a portrait mode with a bunch of useful filters, including one called Bokeh Flare, AI color portrait, and dynamic bokeh, so you can really improvise a lot with this. And if you go here in the more section, you got your slow-mo, expert, ultra macro, dual view, movie, starry mode, which is particularly cool, panorama, and street. Street actually comes with its own filters. You can also take raw shots from here. These are the filters: street, black and white, dramatic, and a few more. Those are tailor-made for your urban excursions and other things like that. And we also have a night mode, of course, with two extra settings, AI and Pro. And AI lets you tweak a bit the focus, white balance, shutter, and ISO. And I also have some samples of that already performed here. So 233 shots. One thing I remember here is that the colors are quite powerful. They're quite intense, so sometimes not very realistic, but the details are there, satisfying details, and particularly the blue hues impressed me on this phone. I also play with the slow-mo mode you saw before, and let's check out some selfies. These are the ones I've taken. Not the worst in the world, so I would say they're okay for a high mid-range phone. Pretty solid texture of the face, level of detail, and the focus was fine, which is sometimes a problem for mid-range phones. This is the bokeh, pretty nice way of cutting around my head, and only at the top side, the top threads, there are some problems there with the tree behind me, but nothing truly major. Several attempts at creating a macro. I'm actually more satisfied with the regular close-up rather than the macro. I mean, it looks cool and all, but if you look at it on a large screen, you will not be as impressed as the regular close-up. Okay, so some pretty fine colors here. We also have the last roses because it's the fall now. Once again, this is the main camera, and this is the macro camera, which changes the hue in a pretty unflattering manner. Okay, I think we've addressed the camera enough, but if you also want a video or two, you can go here to this player. We have 24 videos, so quite a few of them. And we also include the stabilization test, like this one here. Now, the camera does okay in this regard. Actually, have done 3 stabilization tests: regular mode, steady mode, and the ultra steady max. And to be frank, without the steady mode, I'm pretty impressed already by what it can deliver. With the other two, it depends a lot on the lighting, and sometimes you won't be very happy with the result. This is the dual view mode. A lot of light. The camera captures a lot of light when filming. Here I try the cinematic mode. Okay, and we also have slow motion here somewhere. This one is pretty cool. And of course, a selfie video is also here, but also a focus test on the foreground and the background, which is quite snappy. And we also have a bunch of night shots. These are low light samples. This is where it shows its true mid-range identity. It behaves like a true mid-range phone, especially with the ultra-wide camera. It's a bit of a letdown. The main one handled its own pretty well, but some light sources aren't totally rendered, so you cannot read some of these logos unless you activate the night mode, regular shot, actually regular shot, ultra-wide shot, and night mode, which is actually doing a fine job, but still you cannot see the whole logo there. These are nighttime selfies, and they're not half bad, even though what's behind me is very noisy, and my face is a bit, well, not very detailed. Okay, enough about that. You will learn more in the text review. You should also know that we did a bunch of tests, I mean speed tests. Let's see what came out of that experience. Okay, so these are the results we achieved. Up to 723 megapixels in download and 547 megapixels in upload. So I would say we're doing fine in the Wi-Fi department. I think it's time to address the software. This is Android 11 with Realme UI 2.0 on top of it, and it's highly customizable. That's something I noticed here. So if you pinch the screen, you're treated to your icon settings, which are quite a few, and you can also download icon packs and perform changes. This is the default from Realme. This is the material style from Google, and you also have Pebble, which looks pretty futuristic. There are also layout options, widgets, and transitions to tweak. We have a sidebar which helps you with floating windows on top of your other layers. So if you're planning on multitasking, you can also do your split screen and activate other options. Minimize a window, for example. You can do a floating window, mini window, and split screen. So you have quite a few options here if you want to split the screen. Okay, that's that. And aside from this, for the security features, we have the face unlock and we have the fingerprint scanner, the optical one in the display. We have personalization here, we have security options, we have convenience tools, screen recorder, gestures. You can replace these buttons here with swipes. You have digital well-being, app management, and a few more other things. Okay, so this is it for the Realme GT Master. I think I covered basically everything, and if not, I will definitely tell you more in a text review. This has been a sort of unboxing and the pre-review of the device. You also have 360 Hz touch sampling rate, so if you're a gamer, you're definitely going to enjoy that. And speaking of gaming, one of the useful options here is the game space. So if you go here, there's the game space, and you can do some tweaks for a balance mode, pro gamer mode, low power mode, blog notifications, and so forth. And then we also have the phone manager, which optimizes your usage. And we have TikTok pre-installed, we have PUBG, we have Twitter, weather, and that's it. So that's it for the Realme GT Master Edition. It's basically supposed to be a work of art from Master Naoto Fukasawa. It definitely feels nice to the touch and looks fine. There's one option which is inspired by luggage, the gray one, with a bunch of 3D hills on its back, and I look forward to seeing that one. $320 and quite a bit of power for your gaming needs, and it never gets hot and charges in 28 minutes. This is it from us. Bye bye.